Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber. You're watching Better for America, presented by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Today, we have a fabulous show. Joining me in just a moment is Mike Baker, a former CIA covert operations officer. He's also the CEO of Portman Square Group. This is an organization that supports the information and security requirements of companies in such a wide variety of sectors. And he is also the host of the President's Daily Brief podcast and Black Files Declassified. This is really interesting stuff. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back with Mike Baker.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
Mike, you've had a remarkable career spanning nearly 2 decades with the CIA, specializing in counterterrorism, counter-narcotics, and counterinsurgency operations across the globe. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, which I absolutely love, and also Black Files Declassified, and then how you lean on your CIA experience in really distributing these great programs.
Well, thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity to join you today. It's the President's Daily Brief. It's morning and afternoon sessions, and the idea is really kind of a riff off of the President's Daily Brief that goes to the White House. And every day, the intel community, primarily the CIA, produces a very brief paper that lands on the desk of the president and national security advisors and basically highlights the key concerns to the U.S. And globally now, because we're all interconnected. And it presents information, provides a little bit of analysis and context. And the whole idea is, look, this is a brief, right? We're not diving into issues in great detail because these are the issues you need to think about. And then they go off and they sort out other issues later on. So the idea is, look, we produce a morning version, which is maybe 20 minutes at the most. We cover 3 or 4 topics globally, a lot of international crises and hotspots, some domestic issues, national security concerns. And then we do a brief in the afternoon, maybe 10 minutes or so. So the idea is it doesn't take up a lot of your time. You listen, you get informed, and, Bob's your uncle. You move on with the rest of your day because everybody's busy. Everybody's so busy that, we thought like a short form, just the news, just the facts, a little bit of context, and hopefully help people stay a little bit better informed about what's going on in the world that could impact them.
Yeah, it's such a great, very, very smart way to help people better understand what's going on. And the information is so useful, interesting. I just love it. Encourage people. They can find that on YouTube, Rumble. Tell us where people can tune into your show.
Sure, everywhere. I'm one of those people that I was a little bit new to the podcast world when I was asked to do this. And so I had to get educated pretty quickly, but it's Spotify, it's Amazon, it's Apple, it's all the podcast platforms. It's available, and we just launched a premium subscription version that's ad-free and then has some additional content. So there's various ways you can look at it. We're going to be going to a video version of it on a YouTube channel here in probably another month or so, and which just means I'll need to comb my hair and put on a clean shirt every time I record the podcast. But other than that, it's good fun, and it's very rewarding. A great team that works on it from First TV, and they do all the heavy work. I just assist in some of the editing and analysis, and then get on there and upload it.
Excellent. Now, Mike, was checking out Black Files Declassified. Interesting that every year the government funds these programs called the Black Budget. If you can talk a little bit about that and about this great program, and explain to us what exactly is behind these secretive missions operating around the globe, and then how people can watch that. This is real interesting. Black Files Declassified.
I appreciate you mentioning that. That show, I've done some TV series in the past, but Black Files was really, from my perspective, I think the most interesting. And the idea started, as you pointed out, with this idea of the budgets, right? So if you want to know within reason, right? I'm a big believer in sources and methods, and some secrets are necessary, but within reason, if you want to know what the government's up to, you need to follow the money. And so, because these programs, these special operations, these units that get developed, all the development that goes on for science and technology, all of these things have to be funded. And so following the budgets mean basically going into, again, as you pointed out, the black budget, and that could be buried deep in line items in the Defense Department. It could be in a variety of places. You have to do some investigative work, but then that will help you start to understand what the government's doing. Now, we don't, as it notes, it's declassified. So I'm not in the business of revealing classified secrets, but for the degree that you can, I think it's important to understand in the past what was done, in the current times, what they're thinking about for the future. And so we really traveled all over the country on this series. We did 2 seasons, and they proposed a 3rd season. So we're looking at that issue. It's available on, still streaming on Discovery Plus. And I appreciate you mentioning it because it was a lot of fun. It's not often, someone says, hey, do you want to travel around the country and the world, talk to interesting people, dive into interesting secretive projects, and, then to the degree you can, tell those stories. And I love to travel and I love to meet people, so it worked out very well.
That's right. And so important that people understand where their money is going, where the taxpayer money is going. This is really good. More of that needs to be uncovered and shared, I think, with people. So we're just so thrilled that you're doing that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your time with the CIA. You really were recognized for your outstanding performance and operational achievements. You were in so many hostile environments. It seems today that intelligence is at the center of so many current events. How did your experiences shape your perspective on global security, our national security, intelligence overall, as it relates to our present time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't think we have enough time to answer it fully.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do this again. But the agency gave me a great opportunity. And so I'm one of those people who I came out of it with nothing but praise for the people that are involved at the CIA, the operations that we do, the work that's done. Nobody is there for a pat on the back. Nobody's there for public recognition, right? And you're certainly not there to get wealthy. So I had the good fortune to work with incredibly patriotic and sharp individuals in a variety of operations around the world. And it teaches you all sorts of things. It teaches you lessons that, are actually good for just general life. It teaches you, I think, in a way, how to be a better parent. That sounds odd, but you really learn the meaning of responsibility because they give you, as a young person, they give you tremendous responsibility out in the field if you're in operations. And you have to learn to do a variety of things. You have to learn to make decisions with imperfect information, right? It's not like the movies. You're not going to have all the information, all the data, right? You're not going to know what's inside that target before you rock up on it necessarily. You've got to make decisions with imperfect information. You got to, as we say, get off the X and just make a decision. That turned out actually, in a way, not to disappear down a rabbit hole, it turned out to be an incredibly important lesson when I left and started a business. Because, you can be very, very cautious in life and worry that you don't have all the information you need to make an educated guess. But by the time you get all that information, the opportunities usually passed you by, or something bad has happened, at least on the operational side of things. Something's going to go south. So I guess what I'm saying is I learned a tremendous amount that sometimes I didn't even realize I was understanding or learning. And they teach you also, I think, which is important, the way to deal with people, right? You explain the mission to people, and you, first of all, you make sure you're recruiting and hiring, the best you can find, right? You explain the mission, and then you get out of the way for the most part, right? And that also was important in business. And I think because I had no business experience when I started Portman Square Group all those years ago, and but I did have the experience with the agency, and so it taught me to hire the right people And luckily, there's a large pool of candidates who are smarter than I am out there in the world. So finding people smarter than me wasn't hard. But then, using the agency's kind of theory of, as long as they understand the mission, as long as they understand what the risk appetite is, explain it, and then let them get on with their jobs, right? And, set the bar high, right? You got to set the bar. It can't be average. I tell my kids, I got 3 boys, young boys now, and Scooter and Sluggo and Muggsy, and I tell them all the time, my job is not to raise average people, because the world is fully populated with average people. Our job as parents is to have them excel somehow, right? Even if it's just in one area. But the agency teaches you that as well. Set the bar high and demand excellence.
This is all such great stuff. I mean, it just reminds me a lot of Dan Weber, founder of AMAC, my father. He always said, if you can find one thing that you enjoy doing and you can do it better than 90% of the rest, you'll be very successful in life. You'll be very happy in life. Mm-hmm. And I think today we've lowered the bar here in America, it seems, and even our government agencies. It seems to our AMAC members, over 2 million strong, that there's a new set of priorities, and it's not really based on merit. You mentioned just a minute ago that you looked for the best people, you looked for smarter people. How concerned are you today that some of our agencies are shifting towards other, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, and this whole, gender ideology that seems to be taking focus away from the job at hand and finding the talent and the right people to execute?
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's an incredibly difficult subject to discuss in a way, because if you come out against that, if you say, I've actually seen some studies, some reports, and there was a handful of British universities, and I'm a dual citizen, that came out saying, just talking about competency, just talking about hiring the best person is discriminatory. I'm thinking, how does that work, right? So I think if you target competency and you target the idea of giving opportunity, right? Because you can't go for equal result. You've got to go for equal opportunity, and then people are going to either succeed or fail, right? But that's the nature of humanity, right? You're going to have some overachievers, you're going to not. But if people start from, so focus on equal opportunity for everybody, but don't focus on this DEI concept. Just divides us, right? And it creates, baggage for people. I mean, I think, not to disappear down this rabbit hole, but if President Biden, when he was running, instead of saying, I pledge to pick a woman of color as my VP, instead, if he had said, I pledge to pick the best person, the most competent person for this job, and then had picked her, right? She wouldn't have started the job with this baggage where everybody says, well, it's clear why she's got the job, right? Now, whether she's competent or not for it, that's another discussion. But what I'm saying is don't hamper, don't make it harder for people. And that's what DEI does in a way. And again, it divides us. So I'm a big fan of saying, hire the best people you can find. It doesn't matter who they are, what they believe, what they look like, right? But underlying that, yes, I'm also a big fan of saying people need equal opportunity. And to be fair, okay, fine, the world isn't really structured that way. There's a lot of inequality out there, economic and other. But I think we've gone down this path of DEI, and I think it's going to turn the corner. I think people are starting to realize that it's really problematic.
It's not working. It's just not working. I mean, equity, which means everyone has the same outcome. It sounds wonderful, but that's heaven, not earth. Yeah. In other words, we can't. Freedom allows people to make free choice, and that's important. But equal opportunity is really where it's at, and then you get out what you put in. I mean, this is crazy that America has gone in such a direction, which is really erring towards that socialism, Marxism view. And putting people in groups, which we don't, obviously, like you being a patriot and loving this country, each individual has its own great gifts to share with the rest of the world. So
Well,
I
I
love that
really
you
thought we'd
highlight
moved
that.
away from that. I kind of had the impression we were moving away from it in the right direction, which
Sure,
was this
we
idea
were.
of, merit and looking beyond what somebody looks like or what they think, and just
Right.
I thought we were going in that direction, but it does seem over the past few years we've stepped backwards in this desire. Look, I mean, some of these people in the DEI world, I think, are just grifters. Some are
Yes.
legitimately looking to make life better, so that's fine. But yeah, I think we've gone backwards, and it's harmful to everyone. Not this is not a privilege issue for one group or another. Everybody benefits when you have the most competent people working.
Very well said. Now, so many Americans and our members are fearful of weaponization of government agencies. I'm just curious, in your time at the CIA, did you ever feel as though it may have been operated with any political bias? And then, if not then, do you feel that things have changed today? Or is it still true that they're operating without political bias, in your view as a
Yeah.
U.S. citizen?
Yeah, I mean, during my time with the outfit, no, I never saw, quite frankly, I never saw any political bias. I never saw any tendency to try to push particular political agendas. We never sat in safe houses overseas in some, difficult, challenging environment, passing the time by talking politics. Nobody cared, right? You told us what the task was, and you go out and you do it, and you ask for the next task. And so I never saw that. Has it changed? Yeah, I think in a certain way, not at the working level, right? Not at the operational level, where all these people are out there in the field doing their work and just getting on with the mission. I don't think it's changed at all there. There have been cases where we're getting people at the top who seem a little too enamored of political top cover and sort of access and closeness to if there is any glamour, the glamour of politics. So I think that's where you can have some problems. The political appointed individuals who can push their own agenda, right? That's why I've always been a fan with the CIA. I've always been a big fan of having that director, the person in charge, rise up through the ranks, right? Now I'm biased. I want them to come up through the operational side of things, because we have different groups. We have the Intel group and science technology, which is fantastic, and admin and everything. But I've always wanted the director and the deputy director to be folks who have come up through the ranks, know the organization inside and out, and aren't political. They didn't come from somewhere else. They weren't a chief of staff and, then got appointed as Secretary of State and then ended up as a, CIA director or whatever. That part is where you can get sideways. You can get somebody appointed there that might have, or that pushes their own political agenda, or just their bias is there. And that can impact the next level below because, well, they know what the director is like and they know what the director likes, and that might influence theirs. So it can be difficult, but you cannot have a political intel organization. You cannot have a political federal law enforcement organization. We have to be very careful to avoid that happening. I'm also not a big fan of saying, okay, we got to tear down these institutions and start over again, because that's some banana republic stuff right there. That's exactly what happens in a fourth world country, where every time there's a change in government or a coup, they'll just wipe out the intel shop and federal law enforcement or whatever and put in their own cronies. And that's a very dangerous thing as well. So these organizations, the bones of them are fine. You can occasionally get some problems at the very top based on political appointments, but you have to be very careful about this idea of, well, we have to tear them all down and start over.
Very good. Yeah. And Mike, you've worked in such diverse regions. You were in Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, Africa, Europe, the former Soviet Union. So you've really gained firsthand insight into various global, hotspots and threats. From your perspective, what are the current emerging threats in your view, or areas of concern that the public and AMAC members should be more aware of?
Well, I think they should focus on probably the same countries that we've really been worried about for decades now. And they've always sort of been at the top of the hit list in terms of priority and concern and potential impact on national security. And that would be Iran, that would be Russia, and that would be China. North Korea's up there, but North Korea's up there because of their nuclear capabilities, technology, their missile capabilities, and their closeness to China. The fact that, China props them up. So I think short term, look, Iran, by most estimates, could build a nuclear device inside of about a week or two at the most. Could probably have 3 to 5 of them inside of a month. They have stockpiled weapons-grade uranium, or near weapons-grade uranium, roughly 60% enrichment. They need to get up to about 90%, to consider it weapons-grade. But that going from 60 to 90, not to go in that direction, but sure. 60 to 90 is a much easier lift than going from 0 to 60% enrichment. So, the Iranian nuclear and missile programs are of a major concern. They've created this proxy network, this belt of proxies that they've trained up and built and support and fund and resource. The Houthis, the Hamas, the Hezbollah, all the instability that we're seeing, not to oversimplify it, but it can be traced back to Iran. And then we've got China, and China has increased year on year their defense spending. They're getting more aggressive in the South China Sea and elsewhere. They've been creating trade deals that lock down critical minerals, rare earth minerals. They control most of the mineral refining process that goes on in the world. They have a long view, which puts them at the top of the food chain down the road, and they're continuing to march in that direction. Xi has locked down that government like nobody since Mao. And so, yes, China is a real concern. Russia, clearly Putin, he's not an irrational actor, but, he's got designs to rebuild the former Soviet Union in some capacity, and that's what his adventurism and invasion of Ukraine is all about. If anybody thinks that somehow Ukraine can withstand Russia without U.S. support, I'm not quite sure, what battle plan they're looking at. But if we're all fine, and this is the problem. We 2 years into this war, and we're fatigued because it got into a stalemate. Now Russia has slightly the offensive upper hand. If we don't continue to provide resources to Ukraine from the U.S., then eventually Russia will win. And, at least from my perspective and listening and watching Putin over the years, he's not going to stop with Ukraine, right? That's not his objective. And so I think it's in our best interests. I understand why people are upset about it. I understand why people are tired of it, maybe. I think that's the government's fault for not being transparent about why we're there, what we're doing, how we ensure that Ukraine spends the money properly. Anyway, that's a long, rambling answer to your question.
No, Mike, you brought up a lot of really great points. I think why people are frustrated is because we have a president who seems to care more about securing foreign nations and their border than our own border here at home. And when America is suffering and he turns a blind eye because we've got people pouring into this nation. I mean, you specialized in this. You specialized in counterterrorism, which, your role was really to deter potential threats with a wide open border. And it is confirmed that many bad actors have entered the U.S.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've heard major thought leaders, including Donald J. Trump, say the chances that this could result in a major terrorist attack, he said 100%. I mean, do you agree that these wide open borders are really welcoming, people who are a real threat to America?
Oh no, without a doubt. Look, you cannot have a national security, policy that is focused on protecting your citizens, and that's the federal government's primary job: protect its citizens. Right? You can't do that. You can't maintain national security. You can't even maintain public security, right, in terms of crime on the streets, unless you have a secure border, unless you know who's coming and going across your border. That's why you have border control. That's why every country out there, including Mexico and everyone else, I mean, try crossing into Mexico and receiving benefits illegally. It's not going to happen. So the reason why I think, this is going to sound odd, but the reason why there's pushback now about Ukraine funding is because of what you're pointing out. It's a self-inflicted wound by the Biden administration. They profess to want to get more support to Ukraine. Well, part of the reason why people are upset is because they completely ignored for 3 years, probably didn't ignore, this was probably more by design, of having an open or semi-porous, however you want to refer to it, border. And because of that, now people are focused on this. They're saying, look, you can't even protect citizens at home. And so if you don't know who's coming across the border, and if you think maybe 8 million, that's what they're estimating, possibly 8 million over the course of, by the time we get to the end of this fiscal year, so, October, end of September, maybe 8 million known encounters. Conservatively, that could end up being about 3 million unknown who are in the country because they never encountered law enforcement. And then we have this issue of, the fact that the Biden administration has been flying over 300,000 people into the country at nighttime into various cities around the country because they don't want the numbers to be as high as in terms of border crossings. So we've got a serious problem. And now here's my worry, and then I'll stop talking. My worry is that people are so busy with just their day-to-day life, right? They're just busy trying to put food on the table. They're busy trying to take care of their families, that they may not look at this and think rationally. And people may actually buy the ridiculous narrative that the Democrats have come up with now, that it's all the Republicans' fault. They've had an open border for 3 years. Millions of people have crossed in. We've got rampant crime in a number of cities, and the cities are legitimately strained in terms of resources. And yet the Democrats have settled on this narrative, as he pointed out in his State of the Union speech last night, that somehow all of this problem is the result of a month and a half of the Republicans not agreeing to a bill that the Democrats wrote, knowing that the Republicans would shoot it down. So, but I'm worried that people will buy that argument because they're just busy doing everything else, and that's the way it works.
That's the tough thing. And when we see that we've got the media has gone completely left. They've gone so far left. Mainstream media is just not reporting on the truth these days. This is why I'm telling people, go to amac.us, watch your podcast, get involved, make sure that you're getting news and information from the right source. But speaking of the State of the Union address, I mean, what did you think of it? I'll share my comments. I'd like to hear yours first. How did you think he did? How do you think he presented? And do you think he had much substance?
I think he said exactly at least from my perspective, what I was anticipating he would say. He blamed the Republicans for most things. He talked up the economy. Look, inflation's down. Prices, are still way up. And they, are no indications that, those prices are going to be coming down. And that's what really impacts people. But, they're running along this idea that somehow, they've saved the economy. To me, he came across as very angry. But that's always been his, he's thin-skinned. He doesn't like criticism. He thinks that if he just shouts with the occasional whisper that people will think he's fiery. And sure enough, to your point, the leftist media or those that support the left agenda in the media, and there are a number of them, they came out and said, oh my gosh, what a great speech. It's a speech for the ages, a fiery show of force from the president. And really, all he did was not pass out, right? Not fall at the podium the bar was set so low for a president of the United States. The fact that he survived giving this speech and didn't fall asleep halfway through it, that for the Democrats was enough to say, look, he's fine. How dare you question his mental acuity,
Yeah, I'm with you there all the way. I think that he just sounded angry. He was yelling. He was not the unifying president that he promised to be. No. There was nothing new in anything he said. He had no real, I call it lying when you say that you've had these great accomplishments, which, just look at your checkbook and people know that it costs a lot more to buy a home, to buy a car. to pump, put food in your refrigerator and so on and so forth. So Americans are waking up. Hopefully there aren't enough useful idiots out there, Mike, that are going to buy into sort of just the headline or listen to the sound bites on MSNBC and go along with it, because there's too much at stake here in America for us to let another 4 years go by somebody who doesn't want to put America first. So appreciate your great thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think one thing for people to think about, I think one thing for folks to consider is, look, we're all getting older, right? That's just the way it works, right? But we age differently. And so if you watch the president and you legitimately think he's got the mental acuity and stamina to be the leader of the free world, then fine. God bless you and vote that way. But I don't know how you watch him over a period of time and imagine that if he wins in November, that somehow he's going to be president 4 years later. So my point is, a vote for President Biden is a vote for President Kamala Harris. And if you're okay with Kamala Harris as president of the United States, then we probably are so far apart in our assessment of competency that we'll never find common ground.
Very good point. That's exactly right. Remember who you're really voting for and what it means. Thank you so much for that. Before we let you run, Mike, I did want to talk a little bit about this Portman Square group. I think it's just terrific what you're doing. You are the CEO. Tell us a little bit about Portman Square.
Sure. It's an intelligence firm. So we gather strategic intelligence. We provide investigative support, litigation support. We have folks that do nothing but due diligence on people and places and companies and operating environments. We have a security services group that provides a great deal of support to corporate security concerns, risk and threat assessments. We've got a crisis communications group that provides a great deal of service, a policy group that assists companies that are out there. So we work with Fortune 50 companies, large law firms, and a variety of other financial institutions. And it's great. And, I started the business when I got out of the agency with a very close friend of mine who came out of the British teams. And we've been very lucky in terms of building it. We're based on a variety of places around the world: London, Washington, D.C., New York, Chicago, Phoenix, Monterey, Mexico City. I forget where else. I should know those all.
You're a busy guy.
At my disposal, but anyway, so it's really good, and we've been very blessed in terms of the folks we've hired. Some of these folks have been with us now for 18 years, I guess, and so we've really been lucky to have folks along for the ride, watch them build families and raise their families, and that's been the most rewarding thing. And then on the business side, honestly, some of my best friends, started out as folks that I knew at potential clients. And I really think, for me, I didn't know how to have business any other way. It was just, you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy people. You have to believe in what you're doing. And so, again, we've been lucky. I know a lot of folks who come out of the military or mild shop or whatever, and it can be tough in the sense of finding a next challenge. And I've been really lucky in that ever since leaving the outfit, I've been, very fortunate.
You've been able to pick right up. I mean, here you are protecting business, intelligence, and really doing good by business, across the globe. Thank you so much, for being here. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I just want to encourage all of our listeners to tune in to your President's Daily Brief podcast. It really is fabulous. And Black Files Declassified.
Thank you.
Mike Baker, I hope to have you back with us again soon.
I hope so. Just call anytime. It's been a lot of fun. Sorry if I answered a lot of long questions.
Please. No, are you kidding me? This is great. I could talk to you for hours and hours. We do want to have you back with us again. Thanks again for joining us, and for everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to renew or join AMAC. Make sure you do that. Tell your friends and family about AMAC. There's strength in numbers. When we go to Washington, D.C., they listen. When we say we've got over 2 million Americans that are behind us, we're out there supporting you, defending you, all Americans, especially those 50 plus. I'm Rebecca Weber. Have a blessed day, everyone. Until next time. Paragon Home Resources is an industry leader in real estate and moving services with a national network of reputable partners. Paragon is here to help you. Paragon Home Resources provides a personal home resources coordinator to arrange the real estate and moving solutions that meet your needs. You save time and money when you use one of Paragon's reputable real estate agents. They can help you sort through your belongings and arrange for shipments of any size nationwide. We understand how buying and selling and the moving that comes with it can be overwhelming. Let Paragon Home Resources simplify the process for you and those you love. Paragon Home Resources is an industry leader in real estate and moving services. Check them out today. To learn more, please visit paragonhomeresources.com/AMAC or call us at 855-647-2644.